We have a slightly weird numbering system, so I think we've done about 80 of them in total, but I think this is probably 29 of our second tranche of show and tells. We always start by telling people exactly what we're doing, what our vision is, if you like, for the new Buckinghamshire website. And what we are doing is building that new Buckinghamshire website from the remnants and remains of all the other legacy council websites. So the old Buck-CC, Aylesbury Vale, Wickham, Chiltern, Sesbury, those sorts of things. But the overall vision is to give our residents more free time by making everything they do with the council faster and easier. So that kind of underpins everything that we do. And we talk about this at every show and tell until people get really bored of it. But it's something that we hang on to. So I want to take you through some of the stuff we've done in the last 3 weeks. 3 weeks is our normal sprint period. So we're going to talk a little bit, Oscar's going to talk a little bit about pensions. I think MJ is then going to talk about school travel planning. Tracy's then going to give us some stuff around the work that she's been doing probably over the last 8-9 months for Fix My Street. She's talked about it before, but we're kind of getting towards the end of that program. And then Sierra's going to give you a little bit about digital feedback. I will be sharing my screen for a while, and we will be flipping over to Tracy, who's going to share her screen to show us the stuff that she's done as well. One thing I would say is we are recording this session. We do record them. We put them on the Bucks Digital YouTube channel, and 4 or 5 people a month go and look at it. I think they're all relatives of mine, so I don't think it's going to a wide audience. But if anybody doesn't want to appear on camera, then please turn your cameras off. Okay, so up first is Oscar, and he's going to talk about pensions. So over to you, Oscar.
Hi everyone, sorry I was having some problems with my camera there. So I'll be talking about pensions. Next slide, please. So pensions was quite a big project that we've been working on. During the discovery phase, we did kind of a content audit, and from that content audit, we kind of found out that it was a lot bigger than we thought it was in the first place, and the user base is a lot wider than we thought it was in the first place. So we've kind of looked at the ways that other councils have set out their content, looked at, I think, Manchester, and I think Shropshire was the other main one we've looked at. They all follow quite a similar theme, but there's kind of variations on that theme throughout. And we had in-depth discussions with the service area experts. It's really complicated content, so those discussions were quite lengthy, but it definitely helped us to kind of give us a good base to build from with the content. On to the next slide, please. So we identified some of the key challenges. One of them was the nature of the content. As I said, it's kind of complex info, but it's also complex financial information. So it has a lot of importance for a lot of people. It's quite nuanced, and with the pension fund, they're allowed to kind of provide you with the information, but they can't give you advice. So we had to be very careful on those kind of points. As I was saying, a unique base of users as well. We thought it would mostly be kind of just people employed by Buckinghamshire Council when we first started looking at it, but it also includes kind of people that are contracted out for other services, people that are involved in kind of local services, such as like the fire service and stuff like that. Another like key challenge was the way that the information varies between each of the key user groups. So kind of deferred members, people currently paying in, and then members that are receiving their pension. And there's a lot of kind of key differences between those pieces of information that you give to people. And also there was a document-led approach with some of the stuff. So a lot of kind of fact sheets, informational booklets. On to the next slide, please. So another kind of key challenge was that a lot of the content was kind of bunched up into inline indexes. So the kind of long guides to each section and stuff like that, which made it quite hard to identify kind of the key tasks and stuff that people would want to complete straight off the bat. So we kind of worked to remedy that as well. On to the next slide, please. So planning. This was kind of one of the more complicated planning stages of a project that I've been involved in. Went through the process of looking at the key tasks, which was fairly simple. And next, we usually try to create a rigid IA and kind of content plan, so the navigation and what all the page starters are going to be and stuff like that. But with this project, because of how complex it was hard to do that to start with. You can see kind of on the right there, me and Stuart went through a process of making, I think, probably about 10 or 12 IAs before we decided to have a kind of base IA and then adapt this as we went along. So kind of change it and allow parts of the content to inform other parts of the content rather than kind of going in with a rigid IA and then trying to make stuff fit into it. Onto the next slide, please. So now we're up to a stage where we've drafted a lot of the content, most of the 3 main sections and a few outside of that. So there's only really a few pages left to draft, but probably quite a lot of redrafting and kind of reshuffling left to do. The outcome of it has been we've got the kind of task-based pages that we were looking for at the start. It's easy to identify what you're trying to do straight off the bat. We've centralized some of the content, so kind of some on the tax information, logging into My Pensions Online, the latest news and stuff like that. We've created helpful new pages where there was kind of advice on each individual page about stuff like getting help with decisions about your pension. We've created central pages for that, so that it's easier for users to get the kind of help that they need with making decisions straight away, and also how to avoid scams as part of the pensions pledge to help people avoid scams. And we've also made use of existing resources like the LGPS national website. They've got a lot of tools on that, so we thought it would be kind of more resource efficient to make use of those rather than try and duplicate something ourselves. I think that's all from me.
Thank you very much, Oscar. Before we go on to MJ and school travel planning, I just want to say a big thank you to Oscar. He's done some really great work, not only on pensions, but all the way through this project. And sadly, today is his last show and tell with us. So Oscar is moving on to something bigger and better, or different and better, in September, so we won't have him on the team anymore. So I'd just like to say thanks a lot to Oscar for all the hard work that he's put in over the last probably 2 years, 3 years that he's been with us. It's been a pleasure to have him in the team, and I'm really sad that he's going, but I appreciate why. Anyway, next up is school travel planning, and to take us through this, we've got MJ.
Afternoon all. So school travel planning is currently a microsite, and it's all kinds of different schemes and ways that parents can get their children to school. So that includes things like walking buses, it's got things like cycling training on there, and also road safety initiatives and stuff. We have plotted the old or rather existing content and sort of mapped it all out, finding all of the smaller pages and all of the tucked away pages, and also identified all of the downloadable documents. Next slide, please. So the service recently spoke to us about moving the content to the Buckinghamshire Council site. One of the main things that we found with the existing pages is that there's 2 main sort of audiences for the pages. That's parents looking for ways to get their children to school, and also pages that are aimed at schools themselves or the wider school community about setting up travel planning schemes and things like lesson plans and certificates that can be handed out to children. So this is one of the biggest changes that we've proposed, is sort of splitting those 2 user groups out so that the routes in are a bit clearer. We've also looked at the documents and decided which ones need to be converted to web pages, or which ones are still valid and should be kept as like PDFs to download, such as those certificates. So we've drafted this new information architecture, renamed most of the pages to make them more focused on tasks, and we're just at the stage now where we can start drafting the actual content and hopefully get a better idea if this is going to work. That's all from me today, so I think I'm passing over to Tracy.
Hiya. All
Hi,
right.
I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and pass over to Tracy, who will share hers.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Over to you.
Right. I'm hoping it's sharing or not. Yes, it is. I'm getting a nod that it's sharing.
It is.
Okay. So I'll just quickly run through what we've been doing for the last 9 months on Fix My Street, and going back to what Pete said at the beginning of this meeting, everything we're doing is making it easier for the public to contact us, to interact with us, and at the same time, where we can, if we can reduce some of the admin burden on our own officers and the local parish and town council officers, then it's all a bonus. Moving swiftly on now to devolved services. And devolved services, about 5 years ago, Buckinghamshire Council devolved some of the activities that were carried out by highways to the local town and parish council, because they're more aware of their areas for grass cutting, hedges, sign cleaning. And that was all well and good. The parish and town councils knew what they were doing, highways knew what they weren't doing, but the public didn't know who to contact to report it. So they would make a report or phone up, no, you've got to go to the parish. They go to the parish, oh no, we are devolved, but it's over 30 mile an hour. You need to go back to Buckinghamshire Council. Really poor customer journey. So what we've done is, on Fix My Street, we've built in mapping layers which show the devolved parish areas, parish and town council areas, and the speed limit of the adjacent road, because that there is a factor, it's one of the rules when devolved services moved out. So we've got grass cutting, sign cleaning and hedges. When a report's made online via Fix My Street, it will go to the right team first time. We will also tell the customer just before they submit, we're sending this, for example, to Aylesbury Town Council with a link to devolved services so they can find out a bit more. So that stop. So our customer service centre will use Fix My Street. They won't tell the customer to go somewhere else and just report it, take the customer's details. The customer will get updates from Fix My Street, and it might encourage more online usage if they can do it. So that's great. We're getting the reports to the parish and town council, but they're all sitting on Fix My Street as still open. We don't know what's happening with them. So what we've done was we've built a workflow for our parish and town councils whereby they can reply to the email that they receive advising them of the report. And we've given three scenarios to start with. They can reply to say, just put a code in the subject line. It goes back to Fix My Street. It will update Fix My Street to say this report's now closed, but it will also send an email to the customer who made the original report and anyone who's subscribed to it, saying the report's closed, your local parish and town council, thank you. There are times when members of the public will make reports that they can't plot it on a private land, so they will do it on public land and say it's round the corner. In those cases, private land, Buckinghamshire Council, parish and town council have no responsibility. We never go back to the customer and say it's not us, you know. We'll always go back and say, unfortunately, we're not responsible for it, but here's a link to land registry. So it's never just not us. We'll always give an avenue to progress their inquiry. And the third one that's particularly funky is internal triage, where we send a report from a member of the public. They've chosen say for example, they've chosen hedge, goes to the parish or town council because that's a devolved service. Parish and town council go down and say it's not actually a hedge, it's a tree. We're not responsible for trees. What we don't want is parish or town council, or in fact any Buckinghamshire officer going back and saying it's not us, you've got to report it again. We want to manage everything internally to make the customer's experience in dealing with us as easy as possible. So in that case, the parish and town council can reply to the original email, put a code in the subject line that will send the report back to Fix My Street to an area called internal triage, and we will triage it in Fix My Street to the right team at Buckinghamshire Council. So although we'll keep the customer up to date, and I will demo and show it to you, we'll tell the customer that we're changing the category so it gets to the right team. We're not asking them to re-report it, we're just keeping them up to date. So that was one of the areas that we've done in the last few months. I'll just touch on devolved services. We went live with the pilot on Monday with 4 parish and town councils. All seems to be going very well. In fact, one of them has created Aylesbury Town, Fix My Street at Aylesbury Town Council. Have even created their own email address. They're so excited about it. Internal workflow triage for non-integrated services. So there is some services on Fix My Street where we will just, for example, bus stops, we'll just forward the report to the team and say, there's been a report on Fix My Street, the bus stop's broken, damaged, whatever. Again, that report is just left open on Fix My Street. what we've done is we've built a workflow for these services that they can reply to the email received. And again, it can be fixed, close, private land, internal triage, but we can make these updates and these emails to the original customer specific to that service. For example, it's a bus shelter that goes into our passenger transport team. If it's not us, it's going to be the parish or town council. So we're building a process to send it back to the parish or town council. It's just, or in some cases, it's, I can't say the name, JCD, whatever you see on the bus stops. We're going to report it on their behalf. So we can build as many responses as we want for individual teams. And it's all about making it easier for the customer, easier for the team, but not making it look automated. Try to personalize these messages as much as we can. And also, as well, as part of the workflow that we have on Fix My Street, if anyone makes a report using any category and it's been reported recently and isn't closed, a pop-up will say, this has already been reported. Is this your report? Are you sure you want to report it again? Stops duplicate reports, unnecessary burden on officers and the parish and town council. But also, if it has been reported before and you don't want to report, or you want to receive updates, you can subscribe to the original report. So that's all built. Internal triage for integrated services, that's TFB, for example. It's the only one that we're integrated with our system. A lot of reports go to TFB. They're maybe for one of the other areas within the council that was handled in a different area pre-unitary. We never want to go back to the customer and say, that's not this area. My team, you need to report it to another team in the council. That's just a never go back to the customer and say that. So if it's not for TFB, send it back to internal triage. We will make sure it gets to the right team without actually going to the customer. And again, we'll keep the customer updated. Comms, we have rewritten over 500 individual updates, acknowledgements, status updates for all of the reports on Fix My Street. Previously on Fix My Street, we had one template, and whatever we put in that template was emailed to the customer and exactly the same as published online. And it shouldn't be like that. It should be completely different, because someone going online is just looking for an update. They don't want to say thank you for your report. So now we've got what's published online and what's sent to the customer, similar but not exactly the same. And I'll quickly whiz through. I'm seeing Pete looking at a clock there. Mapping, we've got we've made our map accessible. The icons have now got pictures and colours, not just colours. We're using Ordnance Survey Map, which is free. We don't have to update it, and it's a lot clearer than we would have had. Monthly update in TFB, individual assets are shown on the map. We've got a polygon map for Buckinghamshire car parks and embedded links from the Buckinghamshire website. Again, I'll quickly show you that as well. Selectable bus stop issues, mapping layers showing parish and devolved councils, and the speed limit, and that's all to do with the devolved services. Categories online, whiz through this. 39 new categories, 14 of those we built an online form attached to the category so that we can capture all the information we need at the first point of contact. Stopper messages, I'll show you an example of that, and that's where I was saying, if it's not us, we don't just go back and say it's not us, go away. We'll always try and give an avenue or an advice how a customer can progress their inquiry. Category specific prompts, again, if it's a dead animal, you don't want to say what direction were you traveling, so we can actually put prompts specific to the inquiry. Subcategories move to where we know customers would look, not necessarily our internal structure. Additional features, we've got a new banner that we can put across Fix My Street. We used it recently for Melton Roads. We know there's an emergency, please don't log it on here, call this emergency number. So if we know that there is an issue, we can put it up very, very quickly. Changed all the comms online and email to give one customer phone number, whether it's in hours, out of hours. Because we've got multiple services on Fix My Street, we didn't want a big list of in hours numbers and out of hours number. We just use the 0300 number. It's the same number in and out of hours, and it's got an IVR to direct the customer. Specific staff user profiles, and again, that's all to do with GDPR. We cleansed out 30,000 old reports where we couldn't update them prior to the new internal triage and internal workflow. We've done a full DPIA where possible. There's a fixmystreet.com is a national reporting tool. We've reflected that where we can. We can't always have an influence over that one, but where we can, we've tried to reflect it. Now to the exciting bit, I'll show you a demo. Right, here we go. Ooh. Close this one. Am I okay for time, or do you want me to stop?
No, keep going.
Go and keep going. I'm down here. Oh, it's still on there. Close that bad boy down. I feel like I'm just sitting here talking to myself because I'm sitting in my dining room.
No, there's definitely people listening.
Okay, right. So now we're going to do a little demo. I'm over here now. So I'm going to go, I'll just show you very quickly how easy it is for the customer now to make a report for grass cutting. Grass cutting on the Tring Road, I'll say Walton Street. And I know that Aylesbury Tring Road is a devolved area and this particular road's 30 mile an hour. So I'm just going to go on there and say it's a grass cutting issue. Grass cutting. These are all the reports that have been made before in this area for grass cutting. You can subscribe to one or make your own report. Just continue with your report and you'll say straight away these was sent to Aylesbury Town Council as part of our devolved service. So at every point we're telling the customer, and very quickly as well, I've recently, anytime you make a report on Fix My Street, there are 0300 numbers there. If you think it's an emergency, please call this number. Previous to that, every acknowledgement and update we had at the bottom, if it's an emergency, please phone this number. We've removed that because the customer's already made the decision to stay on the online channel. So why are we pushing a telephone channel? So if they've made the decision to stay on that, to use the online channel, it's not an emergency. So we've just taken the phone number off all the comms that go out. So that one, then continue, send the report through as normal. This one here is a little example of an internal triage that we had today. Particular customer made the report initially as a footpath issue, but it was rubbish on a footpath. Because they logged footpaths are the responsibility of TFB, this particular report, the acknowledgement was sent, this has been passed to the local area technician. Then the local area technician looked and said, well, actually, this isn't a footpath issue, it's a fly tipping issue. Normally they'd go back and say, it's not us. Can you please report it to the fly tipping team? But now they'll send it back to Fix My Street. We've inspected the issue and reviewed the category. The category's been changed to ensure it's passed to the right team. Went to internal triage, where you can see here, it's gone to internal triage. I've gone in and said, okay, yeah, that's fly tipping, done it to fly tipping, and then the customer will get the update on the fly tipping. So it's as easy as click, and it goes, rather than sending emails and just creating a poor customer journey. And again, I can just quickly show you this here. It's in the test system. The report came in for grass cutting. It was sent to Aylesbury Town Council. Aylesbury Town Council have gone in, done what they needed to do, and typed in their code to say that this report's fixed or closed. Fix My Street will get updated. We're very pleased to say the issue report has now been resolved. Your local town and parish council, not Buckinghamshire Council, so they're still getting the credit for what they've done. Very quickly as well, I shall go on and show you. I'm not sure whether I have or not shown you car parking, but I'll show it again just in case. Tring Road. Again, when I said earlier on, we built a polygon map, which I didn't know it until we done it. It's just highlighting a particular area on the map. So I go down now and say it's a car park issue. Straight away, it will tell me there's no Buckinghamshire car park here. Pick a car park on the map that is a grey box around it. So these are the car parks that we, Buckinghamshire Council, are responsible for. You can't progress a car parking report unless you're clicking on one of our car parks. So that means it will only get the reports for there. Now it's going to let me progress. That will go to the parking team. But within the parking, we've got fly tipping, other car park issues, road signs. A lot of these issues that happen in car parks aren't the responsibility of the car park team, because the waste bin overflowing could be the waste team. We can still put a category in there where the customer wants it, but send it to the right team. And I think that's me done now.
Thank you very much, Tracy. There's a huge amount in there. It's really quite scary. We've had really positive feedback, not only from people like cabinet members, but also from CMT, from Service Improvement Board, who actually financed the work that Tracy's done over the last year or so. And it's a real game changer for the way that we deal with parish councils. So we're still looking at whether we can roll this out in other different ways, but something which is really, really positive. I'm just going to share my screen again and bring in Stuart, who I believe is going to talk to us a little bit about digital feedback. Stuart, over to you.
Thanks, Pete. I think you should have gone last there, Tracy, because mine's going to feel a little bit disappointing after all of that. I am going to talk briefly about how we're taking steps to review our own internal processes. So when we're working with a service to design web pages through the migration project. In content design, we take a lot of time to talk and listen to services that we work with, and it's not just to understand what's needed from the pages, but also the motivation of the service as well. So by doing this, we can make sure we're delivering the right thing. We're starting to take this same approach with our own team by asking services who work with us what they thought of the migration process, how we handled the project, what they found difficult, what they enjoyed, and also where we can improve. Next slide, please, Pete. So what have we learned? Well, from the initial responses we've had so far, and services have been quite generous with their time to complete the feedback form. We've learned that holding regular meetings is really important so that we can keep the project focused and moving along. It also gives the service frequent opportunities to ask questions, especially if the service has employees who are new to a digital first approach. We learned that it's important for us to lead confidently. We want collaboration, but it's important that we direct services through the process, especially where it's unfamiliar. We've learned that showing visual mock-ups, even simple post-it notes, helps services understand journey mapping and navigation layouts much better than plain text. We learned that sometimes services need more time than we have available to give them due to their own workloads and pressures. We've learned that having a named point of contact is also very useful and helpful for services. So they know they have someone to talk to. And we've learned that us not just saying no and instead being able to provide an alternative suggestion is a really good attitude for us to have, and it helps with engagement. There's a few quotes there that you may have read. Next slide, please. So what we're doing, so after reviewing the feedback we've received so far, we've already started to make a few changes. And one of these is that we've created a discovery template document. This is just a set of questions that we will ask services from the outset. It includes making sure we take the time to ask services what the pages mean to them and what the service objectives are. This helps to ensure that whoever service speaks to from within the digital team, they'll get the same. They'll get asked the same questions, and we can always then plan a consistent approach to a project or page. We're also starting to book more frequent but shorter meetings in to make sure we keep the project on track, but don't bog down people's days too much. So it might be a 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but try and get those in more frequently. And alongside this, we are continuing to create and iterate our design guidance, which is published on the website. This obviously helps us to reflect our way of working and provide support with regards to formatting, page types and accessibility. It's something that we send out to services as we're working on things to try and confirm, what we're doing and why we're doing things. But as all things with our team, we'll continue to gather research and understanding around our approach and continue to make changes or introduce new ideas where we feel necessary. Now, I do have a 35-minute live presentation on Fix My Street if anybody wants to carry on with this. I'm done now. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you very much, Stuart. It's really good to see that we're really taking services feedback on board. As I say, we like to think that we know what we're doing, and we do. But it's always good to get that reassurance from services and to actually work collaboratively with services to ensure that whatever we do is as good as it can be. Right, that gets us to the end of our show and tell for this week. We've got a minute left. If anybody has any questions, then please shout or put them in the chat. Otherwise, we will see you all again in 3 weeks' time. And thanks to Tracy for her whistle-stop tour of Fix My Street, because there's a lot going on there. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.